Hey guys, this is your boy Don Zizi from Allnaijabeats, the entertainment clinic, and I'm back to fulfill a promise. I promised you that I was gonna show you how I mix my song called Hale. I previously did a video on the beat, and I got a lot of positive feedback. People really like the beat, they like the whole pum pum sound, and people are really interested to see, how I mixed and mastered this beat. So I'm done with the song; it's ready. And maybe at the end of this video, I'll play the final version, of the song for you. But this is the second video, which will show you how to, how I mixed it. And then I'll do a final video to show you how I mastered it. Unfortunately, in this video, I won't be able to show you like step by step. We won't mix the song together. We can't do that because it's going to be like a 2-3 hour video to show you how we mix the song. What I'm going to do is show you the already mixed version, but then take you, break it down for you to show you step by step what I did, in the different sections and how it all came together. One other thing that is important to say is there is no one way of mixing. If you see how I mix this song, is quite different from how I mixed other songs. I mix songs according to how those songs are presented and what can be highlighted in the song to make it sound better. So for those of you who are used to, trying to copy presets, copy, chains, it might not really help you. I have a different song I just mixed last week, which was completely different from how I mixed this song. In fact, there was the only plugin I think that I used that was the same in both songs is auto-tune, but every other thing was just different, So, and then also to say that a lot of people say, FL Studio is for beginners, FL Studio is not good. That's complete crap. That has been disproved many years ago. Year upon year upon year, FL Studio continues to shine as the best DAW in the world. But in the real sense, there's no best DAW. You all know I do videos, with Logic Pro, with Cubase, and I also use Pro Tools. I use PreSonus Studio One as well. Doesn't matter what you use, just know how to use it. Now, FL Studio for me, when I capture vocals on FL Studio, there's a certain openness and weight that I get that I don't get, on any other DAW. But that's just me. Maybe it's subjective. So when you see how this song was mixed on FL Studio, maybe you start to believe that FL Studio is actually powerful enough, to do a professional mix. This is a mixed version. It's not very loud. Of course, it's not mastered. But just to kind of remind you of what this song is about. It's my song. It's called Hale. It's a gospel song. But I featured A+, who's like my artist that signed, to my management outfit. I also feature Laga Mix, in the chorus of the song. So here it goes.
Yeah. Don't you do the beats na fire?
Me too, I hear I'm na fire. Yeah.
Wake up in the morning, man, I'm shouting Hale. The dream when I dreamed last night, they sweet me Hale. Shout out to Baba God, I'm shouting Hale. Ssl Buss Compressor, I'm shouting Hale. Baba, you too much.
Hale.
This blessing is too big.
Hale.
The Papa them want it.
Hale.
This music is too sweet.
Hale.
The Papa them love it.
Hale.
Everybody like it.
Hale.
Professor they shout though.
Hale.
Pastor they shout though.
Hale. You can never go wrong.
Okay, so that's the chorus of the song. It has multiple parts. And, as I show you the mix process, I'll show you, how I mix the different parts. But the first thing you must do is to completely organize your mix. If you don't organize your mix, you're always going to have difficulties with having, a painless mixing process. And when I say organize, I mean like, naming all your channels properly, sending them, to the right mixer channels, and naming those mixer channels, as well, using the right colors. You can see everything that is pink here is my bosses. So for instance, this is my bass bus, and then here you have my drum bus. Also, for my parallel compression setup, I have, like this dark orange color. Same for vocals. You have the main vocals. Then all my special effects go here. All my, synths, strings, guitars, whatever, they all go into the melodic mix. Now, I painted them pink, so it's very straightforward. If for instance, I want to turn down, the volume of my strings, or I feel my drums are, jumping out too much, I want to turn them down. I just come to this fader here, and I turn it down. I spend the first 15 to 20 minutes of doing a mix, just making sure everything is routed to a bus and everything is organized. The second thing you want to do is you want to make sure that you listen to your track from beginning to end. And as you listen to it, you start to make volume, panning adjustments. Now, remember, you're not yet using EQs, you're not using compressors, you're not using reverbs or whatever. What you're doing at that point is you're trying to make the song sound good just using panning and volume control. And usually when I do this, I press the mono button on my SPL2 control, which is sort of like my monitor controller that has all my 3 different monitors connected. So why I turn it to mono is that I don't want to be deceived, by the spread or the stereo separation. I want everything to just be like together as mono while I do the balancing. And then you are going to ask, yeah, but how are you going to pan if you're on mono? Yes, you can still pan, because as you pan, it changes sort of like, depending on the pan law that you're using, it changes the volume or the weight of the instrument. So as you do that in mono, it also helps you to ensure that you're keeping that separation, even though everything is together, if that makes any sense. So now after that, you switch back to stereo, hear it, make sure it's already sounding good. You haven't put any plugins, you haven't put anything, it's just sounding good. So one thing that is important that I didn't mention is, how you go about editing the vocals. And this is something that a lot of people say, FL Studio is not really like the right platform. Well, it's partially true, because it's not as flexible as, say, Cubase. But the truth is that you can actually do a lot of vocal editing on FL Studio, and I do all my vocal editing here. All you need to do is just know how to, use this tool to cut, what you want, and to move it around to adjust it. Also, you want to clean up your vocal and just ensure that there isn't, all the harsh breaths that come out, especially when you use compression, all that stuff, you want to get it out of the way. So. And one other thing, again, is master automation. So this is the master volume. You can see that I automated it. At the beginning, it's quite low, and then it starts to increase, and then it starts to increase in the chorus. And then in the verses as well, I cut it down a little bit. In the rap verse as well, you can see that I've cut down the master volume a little bit. The whole idea is to ensure that the choruses are explosive, they are louder and bigger than the verses, because that's how you can capture the attention of the listener. And that's why we always talk about contrast in music. Music is all about contrast. Loud sounds, low sounds, high frequencies, low frequencies. It's all about just ensuring that you have the right balance of everything. And then after that, the next thing you want to do is you want to go to the vocal. You see how organized. This is Lagamix's part. This is A Plus's part. This is A Plus's, where he was shouting Halle. I had to give it a separate channel because, it had slightly different settings. Then, of course, Don Zizi, my own rap in the second verse, I have my own channel. And then all the backups, have their own sort of like channel where they are routed to. And then I have my Vox Dry, I have my Vox Wet. In a previous video, I already showed you how to set up parallel compression in FL Studio, and I'm not going over that again. You need to go check it or you Google it. But basically, I have my dry Vox here, and I have my wet Vox here. This is where I load my, where I tweak my FET compressor for parallel compression. And then, of course, this is the fader I use to, gauge the amount of parallel compression that I want. And then, of course, I have my main vocal bus where everything is routed. All vocals are routed to, and I have a couple more plugins, in that bus. So for me, the vocal is the main instrument in a song, and I like to start with my vocal. After my vocal, I go to my drums. So if we solo this vocal bus,
Wake up in the morning, man, I'm shouting halle. The dream when I dreamed last night, this sweets me halle. Shout out to Baba God, I'm shouting halle.
Okay, so I'm gonna turn off all the effects for all the vocal chains so that you can just listen and see the difference.
Wake up in the morning, man, I'm
Okay, so we still need to turn off reverb, delay, and chorus.
Wake up in the morning, man, I'm shouting halle. The dream when I dreamed last night, this sweets me halle.
Okay, so what I have on the vocal bus is an EQ where I'm cutting, I'm basically cutting out the, lows. Try to use your ears, don't cut too much, and then a little bit of the low mids as well. I'm not boosting at this point. I do that before the auto tune because I don't want the muddy frequencies to trigger the pitch of the auto tune, and that makes it really, smooth. And then I have my compressor. So this is the EQ with the EQ. Let me solo only this vocal.
Wake up in the morning, man, I'm shouting halle. Wake up in the morning, man, I'm shouting halle.
This is the EQ.
The dream when I dreamed last night, this sweets me halle.
Let's add the auto tune.
Wake up in the morning, man, I'm shouting halle.
Then the compressor. Now this is the FL compressor. I use it most of the time because it comes with FL Studio. It sounds good. It doesn't have a meter for gain reduction, so you are forced to use your ears, to gauge when the compression is just right.
Wake up in the morning, man, I'm shouting halle.
You see, it's not necessarily louder. It's a little bit louder, but it's thicker. It's more stable.
Wake up in the morning, man, I'm shouting halle. The dream when I dreamed last night, this sweets me halle.
Okay, so let's put on the effects on the vocal bus. I'll turn them off and then you can hear what it's doing to the vocal. So firstly, you have this guy here. It's a compressor, but it's a special type of compressor. It's more like upward compression rather than downward compression.
Wake up in the morning, man, I'm shouting halle. The dream when I dreamed last night, this sweets me halle.
So this just gives it, another layer of compression to make it more stable. And then I added this EQ. It's a free download. Just look for boot EQ, and to just brighten up some of the frequencies.
Wake up in the morning, man, I'm shouting halle.
Just to give it a little bit more life. And then this is the DSR that I use. It's not a DSR per se. It's a multi-band compressor. But I use it for de-essing because, it gives smoother results than using a DSR. I think a typical DSR for me sometimes, sounds too dull. So I want to just take the specific frequencies and then, reduce the threshold.
Wake up in the morning, man, I'm shouting halle.
Just take note of where he says shouting. So that shh, initially was harsh without it. With this is without.
Wake up in the morning, man, I'm shouting halle.
Shouting halle. But listen now.
Wake up in the morning, man, I'm shouting halle.
So that's how I DS, and it's fantastic. It's soft. It's smooth. So the next thing we want to turn on is parallel compression. I haven't brought in the reverb yet. I'll bring all that later. So this is parallel compression.
Wake up in the morning, man, I'm shouting halle. The dream when I dreamed last night, this
is without parallel compression.
Wake up in the morning, man, I'm shouting halle.
This is with parallel compression.
Wake up in the morning, man, I'm shouting halle.
So you notice most of the things that I do with with the mixing are like little changes. You really need to listen hard to hear them. But when you pile up all the different changes, you saw when I compared the mixed and the unmixed vocal, you saw there was a big difference. That's because, you add little changes with the different plugins. Don't expect one plugin to do like everything, okay? You keep using different EQs, different compressors until you get the sound that you're going for. So like for A+, where he was shouting halle, which is this place, I think.
Too much.
Halle.
This blessing is too big.
Halle.
The papa them want.
So it's all the same settings, but what's different is I put in a plugin called Pancake. Pancake is a panning plugin where it's an auto pan plugin, so you can hear his voice just move like left to right, left to right. And I did this because I wanted some movement. I didn't want his voice to just be static shouting, Halle. But you have to tweak this. And the good thing is it's graphical. You can just, pick these points and just drag, to let it move as fast as you want and sound how you want.
Too much. This blessing is too big. The papa them want it. This music is.
So you can feel it swinging. Okay, so I talked about the reverb. I completely forgot that, sorry. So I'm going to just turn them on. So I have a reverb. I'm using Ultra Verb from Eventide. This reverb is superb. I use it sometimes. I also use the default FL reverb, just depends on the song. But this reverb really sounds good. You can listen.
Too much. This blessing is too big. The papa them want it. This music is too sweet.
And if you want the settings, you could just, pause the video where I showed, the reverb, and you can basically just copy the settings. But you see I have added some pre-delay. I worked on the decay time, the room size and all that. And I'm using a chamber. Then the delay as well, I'm using the default delay, with FL Studio. Once you know how to tweak it, it sounds very good. I'm using the ping pong with some, panning, not full. I cut down the feedback. I, put in a high cut, low pass, to just make sure, the delayed vocal doesn't interfere with the main vocals. So here's how it sounds.
Too much. This blessing is too big. The papa them want it. This music is too sweet. The papa them love it.
So you always have to be careful with the delays. You don't want them to be noisy, to interfere. You also want to use automation to automate your delays, to kind of increase it in certain places, reduce it in certain places. If you look at this point of the song, I've kind of automated the delay such that it's more in certain places and less in certain places. You can't have like one static delay throughout the song. Usually it helps to kind of just change it. So like listen to
like it. Professor they shout to. Pastor they shout to.
You can never go wrong when Oluwa is all for you.
So what I did there was I cut down the delay because it was too much, but then I brought it up, and then I cut it again, and then I brought it up. I sometimes do that for reverb as well. Some places you want the reverb to be very prominent, and then you just use an automation. And in FL Studio, automation clips are so easy. You just create a clip and then you adjust. You can even create a clip from a specific parameter within the reverb. So for instance, you want to the room size, to just change when it gets to the chorus. You just automate the room size alone, that parameter. So it's just excellent. But just use what works for you. And the ultimate aim is to make the song sound good. Always remember that. It's not about the techniques or the plugins. It's about what do I add to the song to make it sound better. So the other thing I added was a chorus flanger. I always do this because it does a lot of things. Makes the vocal sound, like you put in some honey. It has this smooth, silky feel. But it also helps me to counter pitch issues. Because as manual pitch correction in FL Studio is a little tricky. It's not that easy, like using Vari Audio in Cubase. So what I do is I throw in a chorus, that's the chorus, and then I throw in a flanger. I created a bus, and then I sent, my vocal channels to that bus. And when I turn that on, it's a subtle effect. You might not hear it, but it really sounds
like
good.
It. Professor, wake up in the morning, man, I'm shouting halle. The dream when I dreamed last night, this sweets me halle. Shout out to Baba God, I'm shouting halle.
So, usually just makes the vocal sound better. So now when I was done with the vocals, I worked on the drums, and I'll show you. Now I try not to put too many plugins when I'm mixing drums, because we're using samples, and a lot of these samples are already highly processed, you know, compression, EQ, everything has been used on them. So you want to just only use stuff when you think that there is a need to use stuff. I just remembered one thing on the vocals. So if you look at this default EQ on the channel, I raised the mids a little bit because I wanted the vocal to be a little bit more punchy, and I'm doing this on the vocal bus, so it affects all the vocals. Now if we move to the drums, so for the snaps, so there are like 3-4 snaps, you know, that I just sent to the same channel. I'm using a little bit of reverb. This is more like a drum room reverb setting. Then I'm also cutting the lows and boosting the highs. If I turn those effects off, this is what it sounds like. Turn them on. Yeah, so it has more presence. Then on the main channel itself, I mean for the same snaps, I'm cutting a little bit of the highs. If you go to the kick, I have 2 EQs. The first EQ is the normal parametric EQ, and I'm doing a boost around 160 to give the kick more punch, but also a little bit around 70 as well. So that this is what it does. Without it, now when we throw this guy in, so it gives it more weight. Then the second EQ I'm using is the other one where I'm taking out the highs, because if you listen to the kick, it has this boof that comes after it. So I'm trying to take that off. This is what it sounds like. So you see the kick is clean, you know. Then I have okay, so one other thing about the kick is that I've sidechained it to the bass. So you see this, you right click here, and you choose sidechain to this track, and then you just turn it a little bit up. The whole idea is this is just, you know, sidechain compression. You want the kick to keep punching out even when the bass is playing at the same time. Because I have quite a number of basses. I have like 808s, I have another type of 808, then I have like a synth bass. So I really wanted the kicks to not be lost, you know, in the midst of all these basses. I could even turn on the basses so that you see how the kicks are, you know, punching out from the basses. So you see all through the kicks are coming out very cleanly. So the other kick that I have is basically just doing the same thing, you know, punching the lows. So I kind of blended them together. And I'm also sidechaining this second kick as well. Then for the percussions, nothing for these ones. This kick crash is a roll. For the hi-hat, nothing. I'm not sure I used anything on the hi-hat. Yeah. We have a clap, which I also didn't use much. I only just added a reverb. That's a clap that goes. So yeah, so it's basically just the reverb. I have other percussions. I didn't do much. Like I said, if it sounds good, you don't need to touch it. Nothing on the crash, nothing on all these other percussions.
I'm shouting I'm shouting Halle. Baba, you too much. Halle. Wake up in the morning, man, I'm shouting Halle.
So when I do the balancing of the volume, I always use the kick. The vocals and the kick are like my reference points. So once the kick and the vocal, the kick, the snare, and the vocal, once those three elements are sounding balanced, then I can just basically mix all the other things around them, because those are like the foundation.
Wake up in the morning, man, I'm shouting Halle.
So of course you can feel the rhythm, you know, and it already sounds clean, and these are the main elements. Then of course I already talked about the basses. Let me just show you what I did with them.
Wake up in the morning, man, I'm shouting Halle.
So I have an EQ here where I'm, doing a cut because there was a sound in the 808 that I didn't like, this one. Yeah, so I just took that out. And for the massive bass, which is this one, what I'm doing is I'm using a stereo shaper to kind of place. You can just take note of these settings and you can try them, but I'm just trying to place the bass such that it's not in the middle and it's not fighting with all the other basses. Okay, and then let's listen to the main bass boss, sorry. So what I'm doing on the main bass boss is to, I have Fruity Blood Overdrive, I have Fruity Fast Distortion. Of course, I have explained this in many videos. I don't need to go back to it. But you know that if you want the bass to sound good on small speakers, small radios, on phones, you want people to be able to hear the bass, and then you need to add some distortion. So I use different types. I use the compressor as well, TubeTech CL1B. And then, of course, I'm using an EQ to take out like the extreme low end from the bass to make it clean. So that's for the basses. You can hear them. So finally, I have what I call my melodic mix, which is like the synths, sounds, guitars, pianos, blah, blah, blah. And so for these ones, I really didn't do much as well. But one of the things you want to do is you want to look for the complementary frequencies. So if you look at this sound now, for instance, so for this sound, I found the frequency around 1.4K to be really pleasant, and I boosted it. So this delay llama, I didn't do anything as well. That's the guy, this sound in the end. I didn't do anything much with that guy. Then I have a trumpet. This trumpet was just somewhere in the wrap. So there was nothing to be done there, right? So on the main melodic boss, I just basically cut the low end and a little bit of the highs, so it doesn't interfere with the vocals and the drums. And that's it. Yeah, so that's kind of a summary of how, the song itself was mixed. Bear in mind that it's not yet mastered. One other thing you want to do, which I sometimes do, is to, compress the mix bus. And one way I do this is to use the plugin from Waves, the Ssl Buss Compressor. Okay, so this is a compressor. First thing, I have a preset that sounds really good, Dave Aaron Center Classic. Then I turn off the analog settings. That introduces some noise. And then we listen and adjust accordingly.
Too much. This blessing is stupid. The papa them want it.
So this is without it.
Too much. This blessing is stupid. The papa them want it.
This is with it.
Too much. This blessing is stupid. The papa them want it. This music is too sweet. The papa them love it. Wake up in the morning, man, I'm shouting halle.
So what it does is that it really brings it together. If you check this meter, you see it's not doing a lot. It's just like 1 decibel gain reduction, but it really sounds good. And, like this is like a glue compressor that brings everything together. Remember, we're not mastering, we're still mixing. The other thing that I think is important is if you check my bosses, I've turned their volumes way down because I'm checking my master meter. I want to have at least 3 dB of headroom minimum when I go for mastering. Sometimes it's even as small or as low as 6 dB or even 9 dB, -6, -9 dB. But I want to have at least 3. So let's watch the peaks. They shouldn't exceed 3.
Wake up in the morning, man, I'm shouting halle. The dream when I dream last night, they sweet me high.
So you see some of the peaks exceed 3 and are getting towards 0. So you want to highlight all the bosses. That's the pink ones. You see why I talked about giving them a unique color. Now it's so easy for me to recognize them. And when you just pull down the volume and watch the meters.
Wake up in the morning, man, I'm shouting halle. The dream when I dream last night, they sweet me halle. Shout out to Baba God, I'm shouting halle. Ssl Buss, no, I'm shouting halle. Baba, you too much halle. It's best.
So I even went one step further. Now it's like -6. It doesn't go beyond. This is -6 here. It doesn't go beyond this.
Wake up in the morning, man, I'm shouting halle. The dream when I.
So this is perfect for mastering. It's good to go. One other thing you want to do sometimes is remember our tone balance control plugin from Isotope. Sometimes you want to be sure that the balance of your mix, the EQ balance, and everything is it's just like the commercial songs that you hear on radio, especially because my studio is not properly professionally acoustically treated. So, but I think that I like to do that during mastering. Okay, when I'm using an EQ, for instance, on the overall mix, I don't like to do it during mixing. So that's what the mix is and what it sounds like. So I'm just gonna now play you the final mastered song.
Yeah. Don't you do the beats na fire?
Me too, I hear I'm not fire. Yeah.
Wake up in the morning, man, I'm shouting halle. The dream when I dream last night, they sweet me halle. Shout out to Baba God, I'm shouting halle.
You can never go wrong when Oluwa is all for you. I'm living proof. Na double with the receive, we know they waka. And this time, them go know me, Baba. Many blessings coming my way. Many lessons, many mistakes. God will never let his son to suffer. I mean, I know come this life just to suffer.
Wake up in the morning, man, I'm
halle.
Go for shout though.
Shout out to Baba Gordo. See me flying like I don't win the lotto. When you see me overtaking, it's the Lotto. From city to city, celebration is my motto. Wait, take you back to the genesis. Tears in my eyes like I don't met my nemesis. Everywhere I look, all I see is my enemies. Now when I flow, let them know who the baddest is. Yeah, you know I started from the gutter. All the people that I begged didn't even bother. Disrespect everywhere, even from my brother. Now when I chop my bread, I'm chopping it with butter. So I glorify his name. Let them go insane. Let them see the grace that he's putting on my name. Let them see the way that I'm flying to my fame. In the name of the Lord, that's the way that I'm praying. Yeah, yo.
Wake up in the morning, sing halle. The papa them want sweet
Halle,
like it.
halle.
Professor, pastor for in my life. Blessings all the time. Protection through the night. Plenty blessings in my life. I thank you for favor in my life. Blessings all the time. Protection through the night. Plenty blessings in my life. Yeah.
Halle,
Yeah.
halle,
Whoa.
halle,
In the morning.
halle,
In the evening.
halle,
When I'm sleeping.
halle,
Everlasting.
halle,
Jehovah.
halle.
If you want a beat from me, if you want me to mix for you, if you want me to master for you, just holler me. It's, my details are on the screen. Allnaijabeats at gmail.com. I'll always be, happy to, attend to your needs. Thank you so much for all your comments. And, I want you to support me on Instagram. Like my handle is @donzizi. It's also on the screen. and see you in the next video. Bye.